Still no sound.
What about now? Hey, Jesse, can you hear me?
Okay.
All right.
We've got something.
Got something.
Yes. Yay. Is there an echo? Strong. Do you want me to come over and try one computer again?
Unmute yourself again.
Okay. All right. Nope. Lost it again.
Back.
Does it have an echo?
Everything is working, Ryan says. Guys, thanks for your patience. I appreciate it. I guess the good part of this is that it's free. We can hear you now.
There is an echo. Bit of an echo, it sounds like. On the bright side, we are better at laundromats than we are at technology. I don't know, do you want to try one computer or do you want to keep going at this?
A little bit of an echo. Yeah, I guess we better do that.
Try one. Okay. Why does my thing say end broadcast if I get out?
We are going to try this with one computer so that we hopefully don't get an echo, but we will get this right and we answer your questions, I promise. So give us a second here. Let me know if that is any better. We're going to try maybe just one computer and see if that helps at all. And while Carla's messing with her computer, way better now. Yep, I knew it. Waleed. It was all Carla's fault. She's going to come over and join me, and we're just going to get on one computer, guys, and we'll still answer your questions. All right. Well, we don't pretend to be professionals here, folks. We pretend to be laundromat owners, but the good news is I've got my eye candy with me tonight, guys. So you get to see beautiful Carla. Waleed. All right. So we are going to share a microphone. So this may be a little tricky, but we will make this happen, everyone.
Luckily, we're both pretty loud.
Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Don't worry, we'll run a little long and try to get as many questions answered as we can as we share a microphone here, and we will make this work. One last time, if you can hear us, please let us know. Kevin says he can. It only took us 19 minutes, Kevin, but you guys are awesome. Thanks for joining us. Eli says it's better. Everybody, all right.
Okay.
You can see us. You can hear us. We don't even really care if you can see us. But all right, so let's jump into this, guys. Obviously, a lot of you that are in the chat right now, it's starting to build up. A lot of you guys are our friends. So thanks for our patience in that, first of all. We'll try to do better next time. But what I'm trying to do, if you haven't figured it out by now, is I'm trying to include Carla because she's a really smart woman and she's learning quickly this side of the business. And I've always believed, but she's starting to figure out that she brings a lot of value to the equation, whether it's on podcasts or whatever. So we're going to figure out how to do live streams a little bit more efficiently and better technology wise in the future. But today this is going to work. So
it's our first time.
We're going to roll with it. Yeah. Well, this is our first time doing live streams together in the same room. And we're thinking maybe that's part of the problem. But I digress. We'll figure that out later. Everybody says loud and clear, seem to have no problems. So let's see how many questions we can get answered. If you guys are up for it, I know it's a little late in some parts of the country, but if you're up for it, we'll just run about 20 minutes over. So we'll run 8:20 to 9:20 Eastern time, and our boys are going to be happy because bedtime's 9, and now they get to stay up till 9:20. So, mate, you know what? Our boys are really smart and they're good with technology. Maybe they're the
Maybe
ones
they did
behind
this.
this. They might be hacking us downstairs. But anyways, all right, let's jump into it, guys. Let's get your questions in the chat. And
So I'm kind of watching the questions because Dave will definitely answer a lot more than I will. But the first one I saw, and this was earlier when we first tried to go live and it didn't work, but we had Gary asking how to get customers. So ways of getting customers. And that is an ongoing challenge that we're still working on getting more customers. We've recently started to add some more automations as far as emails and texts. And that seems to be working, especially if I'm able to push out some coupons. Sometimes that incentivizes them to open the email and give us a try. So we're trying to get better with our marketing. What do you want to say?
What I would say is there's kind of two sides to the equation. There's what I call external marketing, which is getting people to understand who you are, what you do, that you exist. And that's when you're going to collect data, as Waleed likes to say. You're going to collect information. You're going to get emails and phone numbers. There's a couple good ways to do that. Obviously, good old-fashioned word of mouth is always going to do that. Having great reviews is phenomenal. It's going to allow people to find you. Google AdWords is an incredible way, but it is a little bit pricey way to find new customers. Social media marketing, being what I call omnipresent in the digital world, whether it's pay-per-click marketing or anything else. Really what you're trying to do is just get people in the door. Once you get their phone number, you get their email address. If they sign up for service, even if they don't actually schedule a pickup, once you get that information, now you're doing what I call internal marketing. And that's more what Carla was referring to. And that's something we're trying to improve and get better at right now. She's actually getting really good at it really quickly. That involves things like email automation and things like that, where you're marketing to people that you already have collected their data. You've already collected their information. And there's two-pronged approach to it. Obviously, you can't do internal marketing if you don't have their data, right? So that's the first goal. The other thing I'll add to that is, when you're a local service provider, which all of us pretty much are in our markets, a van wrap or branded vehicles of some type are absolutely phenomenal investments.
Driving billboards, we always say.
Yeah, our trucks, our branded trucks are 9 feet tall. They're high top Nissan NV cargo vans. And when you do a full wrap, half wrap, or honestly even just your logo on it, everywhere you drive, they're going to see that on 3 sides, both sides and the rear. We don't do much on the front because people don't see that too often. So those are really the best. Excuse me. Those are really the best ways we found of marketing externally and internally. Hopefully that answers.
A lot of people are commenting too about what type of external marketing, and we do the Facebook, Google AdWords. We've definitely had probably the best outcome with Google AdWords, but over the years we've tried other things. We've tried print advertising.
We have billboards.
We've tried billboards. We even did a commercial. We've done Facebook commercials. We've tried it all. But honestly, the best bang for your buck has been the Google AdWords. That tends to be where people go.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. What I recommend people do is, when you get started out, you have a marketing budget, but you don't typically have many customers, right? Or any customers if you're new. So look at what is your marketing budget going to be? Because as a general rule, I recommend a 2 to 3% of gross. But if gross is 0 or $500, 2 or 3% of that isn't much. So when you're launching, you're really going to have to set a budget up. I think for the first year, we just did like $1,000 a month when we didn't really have any customers. And we were trying all kinds of things, as she's alluding to. But really, if I could go back and do it over again 6-7 years ago now, what I would do is spend my first money on my vehicle wrap. Don't necessarily have to do a full wrap, although I love a full wrap. Do a partial wrap, something like that. So I would spend my first dollars on branding my vehicle professionally, even if it's a quarter wrap or something like that. That's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is go right to Google AdWords until I've kind of capped out Google AdWords. I found that's the best bang for your buck. And if you think about it, we don't spend too much time on one question. If you think about it, it makes sense. Because with Google AdWords, you're promoting your services, right, out there. Well, who's going to see those? The people that are going to see those are the people searching for your services, right? So that's typically a good bang for your buck. Now, that's not going to be the be all end all. Those are two or three of the best places to start: your van and Google AdWords. As you scale and grow, then you can get into other things like running pay-per-click ads on Facebook. Now, with Facebook, what you're doing is the opposite of them searching for you. You're trying to, as they're scrolling through social media, you're trying to jump in front of them and go, woohoo, look at me, right? And so you're trying to grab their attention and convince them that you are important and they should pay attention to you, even though they were busy watching cat videos or whatever. So there's different aspects to marketing. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Once you get them in the door, make sure you are setting up email automations. They're not near as, I mean, we should have been doing this years ago, quite frankly. They're not near as complicated as a lot of people think they are. And there's a lot of value in those as well.
And there's a ton of programs out there, so you can price compare. We've used MailChimp and Textedly, and we've recently just switched to ActiveCampaign for some of the email automations and stuff. But there's tons of them out there.
Yeah.
A couple of questions that have popped up, some short one-offs. Somebody asked about detergent. For us, one of our key taglines is we do your laundry your way. And with that means that we offer the popular detergents, but also for our repeat customers, they can send in their own detergent and we will use theirs. But detergents we use, you can speak better. We have Tide, we have
let me see if I can, off the top of my head, we use Tide. And by the way, we offer 5 options, but if they send something else in, we'll use that as well. We offer Tide. We've been doing this for about 6 years, decent volume, depending on, everything's relative, but over 90% of our customers choose Tide. So that's what we do a lot of. Over 5% of our customers choose free and clear, which is usually all free and clear, sometimes Tide free and clear. Hey, Ty, welcome. So those are the big ones. The other 3 off the top of my head is we use Ecos, which is an eco-friendly one. We use Arm & Hammer, and Gain. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot Gain. And honestly, I'd say it's close to 98% between Tide, Gain, and all free and clear. The other 2 are almost 0, but we do offer them just as additional options. But yeah, one of the things I want to point out too, when it comes to what detergents to use, is keep in mind that it does kind of depend on who your ideal avatar is. What business are you going after? Because we focus almost exclusively on residential and what I call small business. So that would be nail salons, hair salons. They're still sending us 50 pounds. That we just treat them like a residential customer. So that's something to really understand and think about too, is who is your ideal avatar? If you're going after primarily or exclusively what I call industrial accounts or even large business accounts like hotels, nursing homes, things like that, they don't care which detergent you're using. In that case, retail brands, branding, the power of the Tide brands or P&G and all that doesn't really mean anything to a commercial client usually. And so in that case, you can a lot of times use a commercial product, which is a lot of times a better quality product at cleaning the linens. But if you try to use a commercial product for residential and small business customers, they don't recognize the name. Then a lot of times they think you're using a generic detergent. So the way it's important to understand how we run and operate and position our business and who our ideal avatar is. We are almost exclusively small business and residential. In fact, we're 100% that except for one hotel account that we have. And so that's why the point isn't what detergent do we use, it's why do we use those detergents. So it depends on the type of business that you're looking to build, the market that you're in, and who are you trying to be. If you're trying to mimic a similar business model to what we're doing in Cincinnati, then you might want to mimic similar, name brand detergents are really popular. If you're mimicking someone that does almost exclusively commercial accounts, you'd be crazy to spend the money on Tide for something like that, in my opinion.
Okay, another thing that's popping up is about POSs. So which POS do we use?
Go ahead.
We've used other ones, but we're currently using Sense. We use it for the POS in the store for drop off. And then we also use it for our pickup and delivery software for route management, route optimization, all of that. And they've come a long way. Sense is still constantly evolving and getting better. They're still not exactly where we would love them to be, but they have come a long way, and they are really improving rapidly. So we're excited with their growth and where they're going to continue to grow with. Another person asked, how soon should I get a POS? I would say, look at the investment, obviously, look at the price of whichever POS you're looking at, but we recommend getting one fairly early. It makes it a lot easier to it doesn't just make the pickup and delivery easier to do with those systems in place, but it makes it easier to learn the system when you don't have as much laundry to do with it. Like, still go through all those procedures, even if you're only doing, 10 orders, because it's going to make it that much easier to scale to, 100 orders or 1,000 orders or whatever. You can probably talk more on that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, when we launched, when we launched, I have to make sure I don't just talk about pickup and delivery. When we launched Wash, Dry, Fold, we used a 3-part carbon copy ticket, a cash register, and a little, credit card machine, and it worked. Okay. We didn't really have any expenses. It worked. It did what, hey, Chris, did what we needed it to do. And in a vacuum, it might seem like, why would we pay for a POS for drop-off laundry when what we did worked and we saved, I don't know, $300, $100, whatever a month. We did that for a few years. We grew our drop-off laundry service. When we added a POS for our drop-off laundry service, what I found really ironic is almost immediately that system made our internal process easier to manage our business. And it also made the customer experience much, much, much better. And so there was something that was really important that we didn't think about. If, once again, what I did in the past and what we do today are two very different things. Now, when we launched pickup and delivery, we launched from day one with a software suite. And I'm convinced that helped us grow our business exponentially. So the question is, what did we do and what would we do if we started today, are two very different things. What I always say is, if you're in a rural town in Alabama or something like that, a town of 5,000 people, you want to just do 3-part tickets or something, and you don't plan on having more than an order or two a day. Your primary business is self-serve. Then you might not need a POS in that environment. But in pretty much any other environment out there, I think you're going to find that a POS for drop-off and or pickup and delivery is going to pay for itself almost immediately, just in the customer experience, which is really important to us. And then the other thing is, understand that in the back end, when it comes to management and things like that, it's going to make your life so much easier. We feel like those systems, I mean, it's borderline comical. Anyone that's using one in the chat, you're going to know what I'm talking about. It's borderline comical that we're paying $300 for some of these really any of them, to be honest with you. Pick your product. And the power that these platforms can provide to us in the present, but also the power that they're going to provide to us in the future, because they're all kind of evolving.
And talking about that evolving, Sharon asked about, does Sense have self-service payment systems as well? Yes, they did release their card readers at the Clean Show, this past Clean Show. And we do have them in one of our stores. We were one of the first companies to use them.
Yeah, I think there was 2 laundromats, one in San Francisco and then us, that put their penny readers, the credit card at the machine is what we call it, readers on your machines. And they had a few kinks, but overall we love it. Now it's working fantastic. We're actually in the process of putting it in a second store. We're taking another system out and putting it in a second store, hopefully in March. And if you're watching this later, this is being recorded in February of 2023. So that's something we're doing. And then once that's done and they're able to source enough of them, because I know they're rolling them out really fast to other laundromat owners, once there's still little supply chain issues, once they can get caught up, we're going to actually do them in the other 2 stores. But we told them, let's do them in one, let's do them in the second, and then let's let you get caught up on your supply. But the answer to the question is, if they could source them right now and provide them to us and all their other customers that are requesting them, we would put them in all 4 stores today. We're just trying to kind of be patient with them, because they're apparently from that Sense kind of made a big deal at the Clean Show, if you didn't notice that, and they got kind of bombarded in a really good way with software, POS, and the penny readers. And so I think they got more orders than they can actually source card readers right now. So
And
they're
they
trying
are-
to get caught up.
sorry. I was going to say, and they're adding loyalty cards
Mhm.
as an option as well.
Yeah.
So
So when it's all said and done, which will be probably sometime this year, we'll have penny devices on each of every machine in all 4 of our stores. We'll have kiosks in all 4 of our stores, which sell loyalty cards that are branded Queen City Laundry. We'll have their POS at the counter, and then we'll have their pickup and delivery software suite. And the cool thing about it is, not happening quite yet, but I think later this year too, because it's all integrated through one management system, one company. The POS at the counter will be able to start the machines for like drop off laundry, and it'll track and tag all the things of why did you start this order or this machine, what customer were you processing a drop off order for. Same thing with pickup and delivery, and that's a big part of why we did it. Is, as you all know, we tend to kind of look into the future and the big picture, and we wanted to partner with a company that kind of saw what I always call the macro versus just what I call Frankensteining our business together, having this company for delivery, this company for penny devices, this company for loyalty cards, this company for POS, which is what we used to have, by the way. Now that we have companies that are trying to take things to another level, that's something that's pretty exciting to us. So
Sense is really trying to be the all-in-one, like even adding down the road, but they're going to be adding their own automations for email and texting and all that kind of stuff to like kind of be there too.
Well, listen, guys, before we go any further, keep the comment coming in the chat. Carla's taking notes. We don't want to leave that banner up forever. Keep the comments coming. Couple things. I know we're a little bit, if you're joining us now, we actually didn't get started at 8. We got started at like, excuse me, we got started like 8:20. So we're going to probably run over to about 9:15, 9:20. But that's, that we had some technology issues. Now that we're getting that going, we just want to take a pause for a second and tell you about our pickup and delivery workshop. We're not going to do a commercial. It's not going to take a whole lot of time, but we want you all to know about this and that it exists. We're not here to sell you anything. If it's a good system, if it's a good training program for you, by all means, we have a couple spots left for our workshop in March. So Carla, you want to tell them about that real quickly? Keep the comment coming. Keep the questions coming in the comments. We're going to jump right back into them in a second.
So not too long, in a month, we in March 13th and 14th, we'll be having our second pickup and delivery workshop. Our first one was back in October and it was amazing. It was 2 extremely packed days, but it was intense. I definitely had to take a long nap after all that, but it was a lot of fun. We got to network with, there were about 15 of us. And we got to network together for the 2 days. We basically took them step by step through our entire pickup and delivery operation, the thoughts behind it, the marketing, all of that kind of stuff. And then we also took them into our store, showed them exactly how we take in orders, how we delegate orders, how we basically turn our facility into a factory overnight to do the volume that we do, and how to scale and how to fold and package. And oh my gosh, there's so much that we covered. So we have this one coming in a month. It's also for marketing, we have a guest speaker this time that we didn't have for our last one, Brett Lyon. He is going to be coming to speak to us a little more about marketing. He knows a lot more than we do about it.
Yeah, and the idea behind it is, and we'll get back to the questions in a minute, so keep them coming. The idea behind the workshop is we're bringing in operators from all over the country, teaching them how to launch, scale, and optimize pickup and delivery, and we're laying out our business model. So there's nothing we hold back. She's right. It's 2 intense days. It's literally like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. day 1 and 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m. day 2. So really what I tell people is we're kind of cramming a 3-day workshop into 2 days to help get you back home. But we provide you with a 90-page handbook that we spent about a year putting together and documenting all of our processes and procedures and training and our bonus structure and, our org chart. And there's no aspect of our business, how we process laundry, why we do it the way we do, how we keep errors low, et cetera, et cetera. So we're literally handing over you, for lack of a better term, an entire business model that we've been tweaking and improving for 6 years now in the workshop. The only reason we bring this up, we have a couple spots left. We're almost sold out. I think we have 4 spots left last time I checked. So if that's something you're interested in, go to our website, check that out, laundromatmillionaire.com. Just click on the coaching page and you can get information there. But yeah, let's get back to the questions and help you guys as much as we can for sure.
Okay, so some questions on drivers. So this is kind of a hot topic. So with drivers, do we contract? Do we have paid employees, or do we even use like DoorDash or Uber or whatever whatever. For us, a big part of our pickup and delivery, we believe that it is a trust business. People invest a lot of money in their clothes, and they are wanting to trust you with those things that they love, their favorite things to wear. And because of that, we like to keep complete control over the entire process. So we use employees for every part of the service. We have W-2 employees that are drivers. We have W-2 employees that process it in our facility. Like everything, it's completely in our control. So that's our personal take on that, because we feel like you have more control over the product if you're not using a contractor or you're not using the DoorDash or the Uber drivers. I'm not saying that those are not viable options for people, but you do kind of lose that control. You're trusting that Uber driver to take their clothes to them and deliver them in the right.
And let me say
manner.
one thing too, when it comes to like control, obviously, no human being can truly control another human being. So, a lot of people say like control is a false narrative. Yeah, there is some truth to that. I mean, that's pretty legitimate. But what I tell people is it easier to control a W-2 employee, or is it easier to control a contractor that you may never see again? A W-2 employee is an actual employee. You've trained them. You can discipline them. You can promote them to a new, you can give an upward mobility, whatever it is. A contractor is literally a transactional relationship. And not that you can't build long-term relationships with contractors, because you can, but it's never going to be the same as W-2. So full disclosure, there may be a time, because we use Sense and everybody knows they have the DoorDash integration. There may be a time where we test that in addition to what we already do, to see if maybe there's another level to our business where we can, because we're a route-based system, all our logistics are based on routes and efficiencies. That's something we teach and train in the workshop too, but it's all based around the idea of having your own employees and having routes and your own in-house vans, excuse me, et cetera, et cetera. So we probably will test those things. And then there is examples of people like Waleed in New York who build their entire business model around it. And that works too for some people in some markets. So we're not here to tell you what works and what doesn't work. We're just here to tell you what works for us. But we ultimately believe in the mindset of always being better tomorrow than yesterday. So our goal isn't to find a perfect system and say, we've arrived, we're perfect, nothing else works. We're the opposite of that. We're like, we know this works. We've been doing it for 6 years. We've tweaked it, improved it drastically. But what if there was another layer to this onion that we could peel back and take our business maybe 5 or 10% to another level? So that's who we are. That's what we're about. Those are some of the things that we'll probably be testing over the next year. But make no mistake, we have a core business model that works and works really well for us in Cincinnati. And we've coached hundreds of clients around the country with our business model. So we know for sure that that works. Someone asked earlier real quickly how many people we have on our team. It varies at one time, but it's anywhere from 35 to 40 employees across our 4 stores, our management team, and our leadership team. So.
And I think the question was actually asking per store.
One
thing we do, it was, but so we have 4 different stores, but one thing we do is we cross train all of our employees, and that helps with some of the staffing issues. We recently did a podcast on staffing that kind of goes into some of that, those redundancies to help cover when people call off and all that. So we do cross train, but then we have 1 store manager at each store. And they're kind of the backup to everything for their specific store as well. And they kind of cover for each other across stores. So individual stores have a full-time manager and usually 2 to 3 that always work there, but people from other stores work there occasionally too.
Yeah, we have 3 stores that are full service laundromats, but don't offer pickup and delivery. All our pickup and delivery is done through 1 location. So our big, what we call our super store, our biggest store, about half our employees work out of that location. That's our processor team, our leadership team, our logistics team, and all those things. And then roughly half the employees work out of the other 3 stores, which are primarily self-serve and drop off, and a couple of stores do dry cleaning as well. So they do everything at a smaller scale except for pickup and delivery. So there's typically 3 to 4 attendants working at each store, usually mostly part-time. And then there's, as she mentioned, a full-time store manager at each store, and the store managers report to our leadership team. So that's kind of our org structure. And we talk in more detail about that in the workshop and things like that too. We lay that out for you in a lot more detail. But as she mentioned, if you go back and check out our podcast
It was like
on
3
staffing,
episodes ago, 2 or 3
Yeah,
episodes ago.
on staffing, we got into a lot more detail about it. So if you're interested, go check that out there as well. Keep the
Another
questions coming, guys.
question
Keep the
I
questions coming.
saw on dividing tips. That kind of goes into another big thing about the way we do our pickup and delivery service, and that's ownership of the order. We do not do an assembly line. The person who starts the order finishes the order. But with that, that means the tip can also be assigned to them. So if the person from that order leaves a tip, it is split between the loan processor and the driver. And is it 50-50?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Pretty
So
simple.
that's how
really.
we do tips.
Yep, absolutely.
Another question was, will we put everything in the workshop on videos and sell it? I don't know. That's a good idea, but that would be hard to get it all in there, and you would miss out on a lot of the networking.
Yeah.
There are pieces though. We don't want to divulge too much, but there are some pieces that we are looking on creating some videos that may be helpful for some of you in your pickup and delivery down the road. So, but we'll leave it at that for now. But we are looking at creating some videos, not the complete 2-day workshop, because a lot of that you honestly have to be here and see it and feel it.
Yeah, part of the, I mean, to be honest with you, I think it was Ty that asked the question. To be honest with you, part of the reason we don't do that, but we do the workshop instead of something, creating a course or something like that, is because there is something to, she talked about networking, and we were amazed. You spend 2 days together, which isn't that long, but they're 2 long days. You eat all your meals together and things like that. You walk away with 15 new friends, not just getting to know Dave and Carla and our leadership team better, but you also get to know the people that you're in the workshop with. And there's immense value in that because they're traveling the same path, maybe a little different, but they're launching, scaling, and optimizing pickup and delivery. And so you build a network of, you could call it a board of directors, if you will, other mentors on a smaller scale, in addition to what we're providing. And then what she talked about is much more important, which is you're really going down a rabbit hole of, if all we did is flew you to Cincinnati, sat in a hotel room, and we were, putting together, share with you this handbook and told you about our process and procedures, yeah, we could do that in a video. We actually close our store for a day and a half. Now we still run pickup and delivery out of it, but we close our self-serve store for a day and a half. And we bring the workshop, about 50% of the time you spend here in Cincinnati is in our facility. You're literally boots on the ground watching our part of the reason we go till 11 o'clock at night on day one of the workshop is we go out to dinner together on a party bus, and then we go back to our store at 9:30 at night and spend about 2 more hours with our leadership team. And they're really, or not our leadership team, with our third shift production crew. So basically the way the workshop is put together is we're going to tell you in theory in the classroom how things work. And then we're going to take you into our facility for about 50% of the time you're there and actually show you how all the things function exactly as we describe them to you. And then that's what I call the real world. And you really can't replace that. I mean, we could have a production team put this together, and there is no replication of actually being in our facility. I mean, Matt, for example, is in the chat. Matt was at our most recent workshop. And when you're in the workshop with our team as they're doing these things, I mean, you can literally ask our leadership team questions, talk about this, walk over the machine, but you can also walk over to our third shift supervisor, one of our production people, and say, I see you're doing X. Why are you doing that? And they'll stop and answer the question for you. Yes. And that's the idea behind it, is we're trying to build something. Anybody can put you in a conference and tell you what to do. What we're trying to do is do a little bit of that. And primarily where we want you to see a real working operation, what it looks like. You really get to jump into the Petri dish. So that the point is, Ty, that's why it really wouldn't work too well. And that's probably something we won't do. There's just a different level to this when you come into our store and spend 2 days with our team. But anyway, so let's get back to it.
Let's see. Another one we had, somebody mentioned the lack of referrals and loyalty system and Sense. How do we get around that? And that is something that they're looking at adding. But how we're getting around that right now is honestly through those automations. I've developed some automations through ActiveCampaign where when a customer has placed, like I can use different data points. So after so many orders, it sends them an email. Thank you for, being a loyal customer. Here's, take $10 off your next order or whatever. So through the automations, I've kind of hit some of the loyalty stuff. I haven't found a great one for referral yet. I'm not sure if there's anything we could add to it to get around that, but those are all things, like we said, Sense is not where they're going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, but we like where they're going, and they're getting there pretty fast. They're not all there yet. We're not saying they're
one thing I'll
perfect
tell you
yet, but
too
they're really kicking butt getting there.
Yeah, I mean they're moving we've been using them for over a year now, and the progress they've made in a year is staggering.
And they've been so great with
where
feedback.
they'll be.
Us
But anyway,
telling them where we
not
need
to
them
do
to be.
yeah, definitely not to do a Sense commercial, but as an example too, there are aspects of loyalty that are built into the system. Like we give our customers that are weekly, biweekly, or not by request, what we call recurring customers, they do get a loyalty discount of 5%. So there are some things built into the Sense system where if you sign up for a recurring pickup, you do get a loyalty bonus of 5% off of all of your orders. So there are some things built into there, but there's definitely some tools that some other platforms have that they don't have. But quite honestly, they've already put things into their platform that some other platforms don't have as well, that have been around a lot longer than them. But anyway, we're not here.
At the end of the day, pick what platform's best for you.
Absolutely.
We're not here to push any certain platform. We can just speak to what we've used.
Yep.
And
ultimately, the reason, if you're excuse me, if you're curious of why we use Sense, ultimately the reason why is when I decided to leave our old platform, what we did is I did a deep dive into all the platforms across the industry, and I could see that there was other platforms and software systems out there that had tools that Sense didn't have, but I didn't see anyone in the industry that was moving as fast as Sense was moving. I mean, if you think about what you're comparing in Sense to these other platforms, most of these other platforms have been around anywhere from 5 to 10 years. Sense has been around 3, and they're pretty much almost caught up in a lot of aspects, and I would argue they're actually ahead of a lot of platforms in other things. Ultimately, why did we choose Sense? It's because we believe that what they're building is the future of our industry, and we wanted to be on the ground floor of that. It's not really because they are somewhere right now. It's where they're going, and we don't see a lot of their competitors, honestly, even trying to do some of the revolutionary things that Sense is executing on. So I don't know if that makes sense to you. We don't want to just turn this into a Sense commercial, but hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
We had someone ask about if there are any fabrics we don't accept. One thing we do is we actually have a partner that does dry cleaning for us. So even fabrics that are dry clean only, we accept. I don't think there's any fabrics we don't accept.
The only thing we don't do, and we just choose not to, is leather. And our dry cleaner does leather, but if you know how leather works, they actually send that out to a leather provider. So we would have been like a middleman among a middleman among a middleman, which just seems silly to us. And there isn't a ton of business, at least in Cincinnati, in leather. So we just chose to not offer that. And we also don't offer alterations and things like that. We could do those things. We've just chosen not to. But short of that, yeah, anything that can be washed, dried, folded, or dry cleaned, we absolutely provide those services at scale.
There's a lot of talk about having an app or not. So Sense doesn't have an app, but they do make a custom website link where people can go in and put their zip code, and then it takes you automatically to if we serve you and setting up your order. Having an app would be awesome, though. I don't know. Have they talked about having an app?
I don't know that they've talked about it, but once again, I don't want Sense to dominate the conversation here today.
I don't know.
That's not why we're here. But yeah, to our knowledge, Sense, well, I know Sense doesn't have an app right now. I haven't asked them if it's something they're looking into. They operate a little bit different type of platform on what they call a live link, which is integrated in your website, connects it through the back end of Sense, and we actually find it to be user friendly. So all they have to do is just go right to our website. But also it provides them with text notifications, and they can manage their orders through the text notifications. So once they get that first text notification that they have an order set up for tomorrow, they can manage their entire order through the entire process, all through that text. So all they have to do is open that text, and they can manage their entire order through that live link. They don't actually even need to go into and open an app. So I don't know if that's something they'll create or not, but I'm a big fan of apps. I think it would be a good thing. But having used Sense's pickup and delivery alone for probably, 7 or 8 months now, we don't really see it as an issue. And we came from a provider that did have an app, and our customers don't seem to have any issues with us not having one. So I'm not sure that it's cracked up to be, but I think there is a use for it for sure. If you've never used a platform without an app or a different type of platform, I think you may be surprised at the ease of use. They're all a little bit different. You may look at your platform and say, hey, if I didn't have my app in this software platform, it would be a mess. the way Sense has built their platform, there's really not a need for an app, if that makes sense. But it's probably too much for this conversation. Once again, we don't want to just talk about Sense the whole time we're here. We want to try to answer all your questions.
Here's something completely not Sense related. Okay. So someone mentioned allocating costs. This is actually, I think, a big issue with pickup and delivery, and a reason why a lot of pickup and delivery attempts fail. And that is figuring out all of your costs that actually go into it, and thereby creating the right price. And that's actually a lengthy part. I'm sure Matt Hilton can tell you. But a lengthy part of our 2-day workshop is we do talk about figuring out what your price should be based on your cost. And we start with, wages based on what you need to pay the employees, what you need to pay a processor to process the laundry, not minimum wage, because we know we can't pay minimum wage and get good workers, but what you truly need to pay people. And then based on that, and based on, the cost in your equipment, and we break it down into different silos or whatever of different categories of cost and how much of your price they should take up, and also making sure that you leave enough we like a 30% profit margin. But obviously you can sway those anyway. But a lot of times I think people set their price based on their competitors and what they think they can charge, and they may be doing laundry and not making any money on it. And that's pointless. So if you can't set a price where you can make money, you may as well not get into pickup and delivery.
Yeah, she's exactly right. We actually spend a decent amount of time in the workshop. And the reason we do is because, full disclosure, we didn't always do this. Like, we didn't always know our numbers the way we probably should have. So we like to stress this, but we also try to simplify it. She mentioned silos. And we did a podcast on this as well at a high level. We break them down into different silos, or you could call them departments, logistics, et cetera, et cetera. And what we're doing is we're reverse engineering the math. So we're saying, here's our costs for X, here's our cost for Y, here's our cost for this. Yes, if we could drive those down and make them cheaper, we would, but let's assume that our costs are going to stay there. And then let's build in a 30% profit, 30 to 35%, depending on the month, margin, and that's our price. And we don't care what our competitors are charging. Now, there is something to be said for having market differentiators and separating ourselves. I see Terry jumped in there, is asking a question about, 24-hour turnaround, 48, we're next day. We offer a next day turnaround. Whatever day we pick up, you get it back tomorrow 100% of the time. That's for drop off, but it's also for pickup and delivery. So our operations, the things we teach in the workshop, we can bring in 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pounds of laundry in one day at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, turn it around overnight when the store is closed to the public, at a premium service with a high level of quality control, and get it right back out the door the next afternoon and back on your doorstep by the time usually you're ready for dinner. And so what we've done is we've taken the math, siloed it out so that it's not overly complicated, reverse engineered it, added in our profit margins, and then look at the market and say, can we charge that? Yes, we can. The reason we can is we've built a business model around what we call market differentiators. So we do things, you're not a commodity. That's the most important thing to remember. It's something we pound in the workshop, is you can't charge premium pricing if you're the same as everybody else. You have to differentiate yourself. And so those are the type of things that are really important. And day one of the workshop, I think it's the first couple sessions, we go into like 15 to 20 different market differentiators within our business model. And those are things that are very difficult to replicate if you don't operate our business model at the efficiency that we do. So hopefully that helps answer that question a little bit more for you too.
Another thing, this kind of hits a couple of questions I think we can answer with. One person asked, how do we have our staff turn on the washers and dryers? And another one was, how do we keep the store clean while they're processing laundry? A big part of both of those is that we shut down our store, our biggest location, and basically turn it into a laundry factory. So we also have at night. Yes. We have third shift processing, which is when the bulk, if not all, of our pickup and delivery is processed. And basically the machines go free. We have them set to where they go free after a certain period.
Yeah, all we do is we have Hipsh machines in our new store. It's just Hipsh command. So time of day pricing. If you have if you have machines that have time of day pricing, you can go in, and what we do is we close, last load's at 9, we close at 10. So nobody starts the load after 9 o'clock. And at 9:30, our third shift production crew comes in, and the store essentially becomes a factory. At 9:45, all the washers go free. And at 10:15, all the dryers go free. Right. When it's basically timed so that even if a customer were to start a load of laundry for self-serve at 8:55, they would still be able to get in, get over, and get out. And what it does is just makes the process, it's once again, I'll keep saying it, not to pound the workshop, but it's part of the process of the things that we teach. Now, I will answer your question one other way. Sense is building something into their system where we'll be able to start all the machines from the POS in the next, I think, 6 months or so. So right now, what we do is we actually, if processing weren't done at night, we just have a till of dollar coins. That's a separate till, and they take it out of that for like drop off and things like that. But that's just a temporary solution until we have what we need. But she's right. We do probably 98-99% of our processing overnight when the stores are closed. And so the retail customers are gone. The store is closed to the public, and all the machines just program free. So we don't even have to track anything at all. And it really improved efficiency when we did that. There was a time when we didn't have that at our old store, and it really, really improved the process when we were able to do that, which is why we're such a big fan of, you have to build up your volume to get to a third shift production team. But when you can shift from second shift to third shift, there's not only the not having to start machines with coins or cards or whatever, but there's a whole different level to efficiency of being able to operate when the customers are not in the store.
Okay, I'm looking for more questions. And keeping the store clean, there's not any customers in there, so they clean up after they're done with their third shift processing.
Yeah, and just so you know, our stores are fully attended. So what happens too is our retail customers and our store attendant leave when our store attendant leaves when the last customer leaves. So the store is pretty much cleaned by the store attendant when the store is open to the public. Now, the third shift production crew, their responsibility for cleaning up after themselves. So they don't clean up after customers. So when you have a production crew that's closed to the public, the store's closed to the public, what ends up happening is if you're going to make a mess, you're going to clean up a mess. Well, guess what you're going to do? You're going to probably try really hard to not make a mess. So yeah, the way it's also kind of built into the system. Jason, to answer your question, yes, we do provide that workshop or in great detail in the workshop. It's an
You're talking
entire,
about the cost breakdown?
it's
Okay.
an entire
Okay.
session. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
very,
and we actually
very big
teach
detail.
you how to calculate what your price should be based on your wages in your area. and
Yeah, we
everything.
teach you how we do what we do and why we do what we do, as a side note. But yeah, so what ends up happening with the cleaning is the attendant cleans the store. The only mess that's made during production is the people that are processing the laundry. So they're careful not to mess up the store. And what ends up happening is when the third shift production crew is finished, they have little gaps of 10 to 15 minutes built into their production schedule where they're waiting on a washer, waiting on a dryer, something like that. And so what we've taught them to do is, hey, you can wait till the end of the night and clean up the store, and you're going to be here an extra half hour, which, by the way, affects your pounds per hour, which is how their bonus structure is established. So they don't want to do that. They want to be as efficient as possible. And so those 10, 15-minute gaps, instead of sitting down, taking a break, smoking, eating, whatever, they're cleaning up after themselves. So if they go into the washer department and they, over the course of 2 hours, just tear up the washer department with soap and detergent and all these different things. Well, as soon as they start to move all those clothes to the dryer and they don't have more new clothes to go in the washer department, they have a 10 or 15-minute gap. They all go back into the washer department and clean up after themselves during that 10 or 15-minute gap. Part of our compensation structure is all based around their speed, accuracy, and quality control. And so when you build their compensation structure around that, they're incentivized to be as efficient as possible. And that includes cleaning up after themselves. So these problems kind of, I don't want to say take care of themselves. They're self-manifesting, but they also solve themselves. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit.
We have a question about, is it too early to attend the workshop if you haven't started pickup and delivery? No, actually, as part of the workshop, we go through, we've had other people that haven't started it yet. And if anything, it helps you get started, I think, on the right foot with you kind of get started with the end in mind, which helps keep you from making the mistakes along the way. But we teach you how to launch and scale. So it's really for anybody, whether you haven't yet, whether you're just starting, or whether you've been trying and it's just not growing as much as you would like it to. It's kind of addressing all that. It's whether you might be starting it or you might just be tweaking what you already have to make it more effective.
Yeah, and
and
if you're not,
efficient.
I know we're talking about wash, dry, fold, and pick up and delivery combined here, but if you're doing drop off laundry in store, but you're not doing pick up and delivery quite yet, a lot, this workshop is around pick up and delivery, but of course, pick up and delivery is just a logistical component of a drop off laundry service. So obviously, we're going to teach you all aspects how we do a wash, dry, fold, drop off laundry order too. So it's really a wash, dry, fold / pick up and delivery workshop. You're getting one and the same because we have to teach you that if you're going to be able to go get the laundry and process it. So Ty, I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, if you told me you're 2 years out from opening your store, and you're going to open for a year without pickup or without drop off, then I might say, hey, this might not be the right time. But if your store is open, which I think your store is open, if I remember right, and you're doing drop off laundry or you're close to drop off laundry, this is the perfect time to do it because you can build that right structure in place for your drop off service. And it just flows very naturally into the logistical components of pickup and delivery. And that's why we kind of break the workshop down into 3 components of launch, scale, and optimize. Launch is starting pickup and delivery and drop off laundry. Scaling it is building an operations team, structure, compensation schedules, all those things that will allow you to grow the business when it's time to grow the business. And then optimization is all the little core components that you should always be tweaking, that we still tweak to this day to try to get another 0.5% out of something without affecting the customer experience. So that's what the workshop's really all about, is it's an all-inclusive thing. But make them rest up a long 2 days.
We
have a lot of fun too, by the way.
Oh yeah. Somebody else asked if we'll have workshops throughout the year. Our plan is to do this as long as the demand is people that are in this service, then we plan on offering it. So we're looking at, this would be our spring one. We would definitely do at least another one this year. I don't know if maybe 2. It just kind of depends on the demand that we're hearing from people.
Yeah, and let's get to some more questions before we talk too much about the workshop. But I will tell you this, guys. When it comes to the workshop itself, the workshop is it's a small, intimate environment. It's only 15 people. Our one in October sold out. This one, we only have 3 or 4 spots left, so I'm pretty confident it'll sell out in the next month. We'll probably do another one this year. But if you think about it, we're really looking at probably doing 2 of these a year. And if they cap out at 15 people, I mean, we're not trying to solve a problem for the industry. We're trying to solve a problem for 30 people, 30 operations teams. And so we expect as more and more people attend and talk and more video resources, things like that get out there, that people will realize that there's really nothing else like this in the industry. And it'll be hard to find openings, where right now there's actually still a couple openings. But let's see if we can hit some more questions over the next 10 or 15 minutes that aren't around scents in the workshop, which we want. I know you guys are asking the questions, but we just don't want this to be a commercial. We want to genuinely help you with your business, even if you can't come to the workshop and you don't use scents.
Yes. We have some questions about compensating for laundry delivered to the wrong address or lost. Okay. I know we've talked about this on some of our episodes, but we believe in making it fair to the person. We value our customers and their loyalty. And if it was our fault, then we're going to compensate them accordingly. But one thing that we do that has been beneficial is we do ask for them to give us, it's 2 days. Is it 3 days? 3 days. Give them 3 days. During that time, look for their item. And during that time also, we will try to track what happened with the order and make it right. And what we found by that 3 days is one of 2 things happens. One, they find it at home because that favorite hoodie that they thought they sent in to get laundered didn't actually get sent.
90%
get sent in, but we never accused them. But we did ask them to look just to be sure. Or another thing, that's a good thing about owning the order, is we know where their order is at any time, and we can usually, through cameras and talking to the person who did that order, figure out what went wrong. Where could that missing item be? Did it get stuck in so-and-so's order or whatever? So a lot of times we can find it. It's pretty rare that something can't be found. As far as something getting damaged, obviously, if it was our fault, it got damaged, then we're going to pay fair market value for that item, even if it was an expensive Prada hoodie or whatever.
Exactly right. And you may think we're crazy, guys, but just throw it a little bit in there, Carla. I mean, there's 2 aspects to it. First of all, we really believe at our core of business, if it's our mistake and it truly is $1,000 hoodie, You and I may think it's crazy to spend $1,000 on a hoodie. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we took responsibility for that item. We messed it up, and we're going to take ownership of that. Now, there's another side to this too, which is, did it come in that way? And so you have to build processes and procedures around knowing that. And these are all part of the intricacies of what we call ownership of the order. We know when they come in. Only one person handles that order from the beginning to the end of the process. And there are ways to do that very efficiently, by the way. When you start doing assembly line mentality and I hand it off to Carla and she hands it off to this person, Carla might catch something that I didn't catch, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there in the beginning. And so we always have one resource to go to for that knowledge and that content. But what we also do is, if it is something that we're replacing at full retail value, we do everything we can to try to get them to go into the store or whatever, purchase the item and bring us the receipt. So that once they, we're not giving you $1,000 for something you bought at Goodwill. Now, if you bought it at Goodwill, that's fine, and you have to go replace it at JCPenney or as a real store, that's fine. But we ask for the receipt, and very rarely do we have problems with that. Ultimately, if you look at things like lifetime values of your customers and things like that, you're typically going to see that, especially with pickup and delivery, there is an insane amount of value associated with a single customer that's loyal. Even if they only use you once a month, they're probably a lifetime value of probably $4,000 to $5,000 in most cases. And so even if you're paying $1,000 for a hoodie to retain that customer, to keep that trust, if it's truly something that your team made a mistake on, first of all, it's just the right thing to do, math aside, but it's also smart business. Now, the flip side of that is we're also not fools. And so we've been taken a few times early on. We learned from it. We got better. We've improved our processes and procedures. So if it is a scam or something like that, we can usually pick up that pretty quickly. And that's just a part of doing something for a long period of time and have checks and balances in place throughout the production process, including our leadership team. I mean, our GM has been with us over 10 years, so there isn't really much she hasn't seen at this point. And her kind of BS meter will go off too if people are, kind of pulling one over on you.
Okay, here's a question about a bonus structure. Before I hit that, though, I noticed Angel was asking about doing pickup and delivery, but not owning a laundromat. I don't talk to Waleed. He does sense with no laundromat. I don't know. Anything you can say to that?
I didn't see the question. So
she said that she has a 9-to-5 job, and she's starting with Sense, but she doesn't own a laundromat. So she's going to do pickup and delivery, I guess, in the evenings.
Okay.
Using other people's laundromats. It was to Angel.
Okay. Well, I won't. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure the context of the question, but I'll tell you, there's really a couple questions in there. My personal opinion, and you're going to get different opinions in the chat, and that's fine. We're all here to bring value in different ways. If you tell me you have a full-time job and you want to, own a laundromat and things like that, that's one thing. Okay. But if you're telling me you want to launch a pickup and delivery business, I'm not saying you couldn't do it from day one, but you're going to outgrow that really, really quickly because it's a very labor intensive business. Your pickup and delivery business, regardless of where you operate it, in a laundromat, in a production facility, outsourcing, whatever it is, at the end of the day, your business needs an operator. Now, you don't have to be a full-time operator, but you have to be available. Somebody has to run the business. So there's kind of two questions in there. And I would kind of, just a general comment, not saying it couldn't work, but just a general comment, I would really caution against something like trying to launch a laundry pickup and delivery business without a retail store, also while having a full-time job where you can't be the independent operator. You've got several things working against you there. But when it comes to the platform, if that's ultimately the question, I mean, yeah, Sense is going to help with that in some ways. But when you're trying to launch and scale and optimize a pickup and delivery business without a retail laundromat, it can absolutely be done. There's people that do it all the time, but you are kind of starting behind the 8 ball, especially regarding your profit margins and things like that. Now, that's one question, one component in and of itself. Another one is I'm launching a pickup and delivery business while I have a full-time job. So I'm going to try to do this evenings and weekends. And the problem is, honestly, even if you could do that, it's going to be tough to scale because you're going to run out of daylight, right? I mean, if you only have, let's say, 5 to 9 every day, it's going to be really tough to do. Now, if there's other aspects to the business, like, oh, but your husband's going to do it full-time, or your wife or your daughter or your whatever, and you have a support system in place, That's a completely different thing. What we teach people in the workshop when it comes to launching pickup and delivery is, make no mistake, you need an operator. It doesn't have to be you. It can be partially you. It can be a partnership where you're hands-on, they're hands-on, and different aspects. But make no mistake, that business needs an operator. Now, when you launch from day one, you don't necessarily need an operator working 60 hours a week, because you won't have any customers, right? But as you scale and you get more customers, you're going to outgrow the ability very quickly, hopefully, to operate as a side hustle. And then you're going to have to make a decision very quickly regarding where you're processing laundry, how you're processing laundry, but also how you're operating a business around a 9-to-5 job. So I don't know if that answers your question. There's a lot in that, but I would caution you, because you have multiple things that are working against you there. But I'm never here to tell somebody something can't be done.
Another question we have is, do we have customer contracts? No, we tell our customers we're going to earn their business each and every time. I will say one caveat to that is, we don't have any under contract yet, but we have discussed contracts with the commercial clients where we are going to be able to meet their demand, we were going to have to invest in some extra equipment and stuff like that. And so we did look at possibly having a contract with them, but that's the only time we've even thought about having a contract.
No, we have kind of a standard terms and conditions that everybody signs digitally in sense when they sign up for service. But an actual contract, I mean, this is an order by order thing, and we believe in earning the order. But keep in mind, we're also almost exclusively 99.9% residential and small business, which are pretty much the same thing. So there's really no basis for having them sign a contract, but you definitely want to have a terms and conditions in place. Now, if you're going to go, as she mentioned, you're going to go buying full automatic folding machines and OPL equipment to put in the back so that you can process a hotel that's going to send you 3,000 pounds a day. And at the same time, you're going to give them a 35% discount because of volume and all those things. Well, you better factor in the economics of that and make sure this is a long-term agreement. That's typically when a contract is going to come into play, if that makes sense to you. But when it comes to residential, they're paying a premium. They're paying full retail prices. We believe in earning their business every day by being better than our competitors, quite honestly.
Okay, the next question, this is one we actually end up spending a lot of time on in the workshop as well, is our bonus structure. Yes, we do have a bonus structure, and that's actually something we have found is an integral component in our compensation, and honestly in our entire process. It's really, so we have wages, and then our bonus structure for our processors is based on the pounds of hours they process over a certain pounds of laundry they process per hour over a certain threshold. And that threshold is basically our profit threshold, where like, as long as they're at this many pounds an hour, we reach our 30% profit margin. But if we can get them to be faster, it increases our profit and it increases theirs because they get bonuses. So it's based on so many cents then per pound that they're over per hour.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. And then also with that, to kind of get buy-in to this whole thing and really get ownership of part of the company, our store managers and our general managers can also get bonuses based on what their stores process and what our company processes. So, sorry.
Yeah, all I was going to add to that is she's exactly right. I mean, it sounds complicated. It's not complicated, but it was definitely an art. If you've ever heard me talk about us launching pickup and delivery and losing hundreds of thousands of dollars for the first year or two, that's a real true story. And then you heard me also talk about what I call cracking the code to pickup and delivery. A big part of that was the logistical components of routes and efficiencies and things like that. As equally as big of a part of it was finding a bonus structure that works for our leadership team, for our store managers, and for our processors, and even our delivery drivers, and the formulas associated with tips and what's fair, and all these different components. What I always tell people in the first 15 minutes of our workshop is, nothing you see today in a vacuum is probably going to blow your mind. But hopefully at the end of the workshop, the totality of all the synergies that work from one part of the business to the other, it will absolutely blow your mind, and it guarantees profitability as your team is able to execute those things. And the pickup and delivery components when it comes to processing, ownership of the order, the bonus structures, all these things, there's a synergy there where any one of those things doesn't necessarily isn't a magic formula. When you back out of it and look at the totality of the business model, it's a pretty beautiful thing. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Listen, we're gonna go for about another 10 minutes or so, just because we kind of messed up in the beginning and we kind of blew it. So our boys get to go to bed a little bit late tonight. We got about 10 minutes left. We're gonna run till about 9:30 Eastern time here in Cincinnati, and then we got to put kiddos to bed. So keep the questions coming. I don't know if we have any more right now.
Do we ever return clothes wet? I wouldn't say wet. We maybe somewhat damp. We do hang dry. So we do your laundry your way. That's kind of our tagline. And so if they have items that they want to be hung dry, then our processors do hang dry them. Luckily, we have a large facility with a lot of room, and we bought some mega fans to help dry them faster.
Yeah,
but depending on the timing, they could be a little damp, I guess.
Yeah, there's a couple tweaks to it that we go into more detail in the workshop too. And I know I keep saying that, but this is just a live event. But just to throw them out there real quick, see if they'll help you a little bit. First of all, our equipment, our dryers, our new state-of-the-art Hipsch touch dryers, and they have a no heat function on them that our processors can choose. So one of the things we do in the art of delegation and intake and things like that is we're intaking orders. The first thing our leadership team is looking for in those components are any orders that are hang dry orders. And what they do is they delegate those out to our processing team. Our processing team comes in at 9:30. They start those orders first. So what we're trying to do is get a jump on it. We're trying to get a jump on the fact that we need to hang dry these items. That's the first thing. So they're going to wash that order first. They're going to immediately put it in a dryer and tumble it with no heat. And so we're going to do that for typically about 2 hours, a lot of times during the lion's share of the production. So we are not hang drying to start with, but we're not heating. Typically 99.9% of the time when they say hang dry, what they mean is no heat. They don't want it to shrink. And so we do that first. The second thing we do is after about 2 hours of tumbling with no heat, then we actually hang dry them. Okay. We do hang dry them. Carla mentioned it. We actually have hang dry racks in the back that are mounted to the wall, and we show you how this works within the workshop and everything. But what ends up happening from there is she's right. We bought 2 industrial fans. And what we do is we take these hang dry items, put them on the hang dry racks. We literally use old-fashioned clothespins, just like your grandma did on the rack, on the line out in the backyard back in the day. And then we turn on these 2 industrial fans. I think they're 24-inch fans, and we create a cross breeze. So we have one at one end and one at the other end within our production facility. And what we do is we accelerate the process of doing what we need to do. Now, we didn't always do these things. And the answer to your question is when we didn't do these things, yes, the orders were almost always slightly damp. What we did is we had a disclaimer on our website. If you send in orders and request hang dry only, the likelihood of your clothes coming back slightly damp is high, and we can't guarantee that they won't be. But what we did through this constant optimization of our business model is we try to find ways to accelerate the process of giving the customer what they want. And we've been able to do that through a couple of the things I just told you about. So you don't have to have a giant facility. We did this at our other facility, which was big, but definitely not as big as our current one. There is an art to these things. What I always tell my leadership and my operations team is, don't tell me what we can't do. Tell me what we can do. So is it a hang dry order? Okay, well, we can't dry it with heat because that's going to shrink the item. Okay, that's acceptable. Tell me what we can do. We can tumble it in a dryer without heat. Okay, that's going to accelerate the process more than just hang it on a rack. Then we can hang it on a rack and put fans on it. That's going to accelerate the process. We can also take a hang dry order and process it first. And so that's what I call a cheat that we build into the system. And we build a cheat in the system of saying, okay, if we have 3,000 pounds of laundry we have to do tonight from 9:30 to 7 a.m., well, one of them has to be done first, right? Why not do the one that requires a little bit more time first? So we flag those orders in the intake and the delegation process. When our team comes in, they grab that order first, put it in the washer, put it in the tumble dry without heat, and then move it to the hang dry rack. And that's the first order that they wash. And so we're cheating, we like to think, an hour or two out of the evening by doing that order first. Because ultimately, that order matters if we do it first. The other orders do not matter.
Okay, I'm trying to see what else we have. We have some questions about costs related to our sales revenue. Our costs are basically 70% of our revenue.
Yeah,
30% is profit. So we're And as far as variable cost, most of it's variable, I would guess.
Yeah, most of it's
Because it's processing, most of it's processing costs.
yeah, most of it's what we've done is reverse engineered it based on a pound of laundry. So even if you have fixed costs like rent, you can do 5,000 pounds of laundry or 500 pounds of laundry. Your rent's the same. Most of your costs associated with a labor intensive business, which is a logistics business and a processing business, it's going to be based on a pound of laundry. So it's a fixed cost when you crack the code and figure out the formula. It's actually a fixed cost, but it's not a fixed cost. It's a fixed cost based on a pound of laundry. Once you figure out what that cost is, let's say that cost, your team, your organization, the synergies, all the things we talked about is based on a science of 70% of the cost of a pound of laundry retail. As long as your team is operating within the parameters of this code that I talk about in our overall business model, then you know you're going to end up with a 30% margin.
Yeah. And basically ours kind of breaks down about 40% of our price. So our sale price, 40% of it is based on the processing costs. And that encompasses our pay, our bonuses, all of that. What is it? 20% is on more the transportation part of it. So it gets into the gas and the wear and tear on the truck, kind of that part of it. And then 10% is on the marketing is what we spend. So
Marketing,
that's kind of how ours is.
We talked about earlier. We kind of silo them together into a couple different departments or categories. And we actually did a whole episode on this. So if you go check out the podcast, Laundromat Millionaire, totally free. You don't got to do the workshop to find that. We break down those silos for you and how we do that. Kind of a big high level because it's a 1 hour podcast, but we do break that down in more detail. And obviously if you're 70% of the cost of a retail pound of laundry every time, you're going to have 30% margins. If you can take a 20% for a silo or a department and you can get that down to 18%, well, now your margin's going to go up to 32%. And so we're always kind of pushing the envelope. Got about 5 minutes left, guys. Got a few last questions in here for you, and we'll try to get them. But we appreciate you guys joining us, and definitely thank you for your patience in the beginning. We think we figured out what and I do mean I did wrong in the beginning. I'll take blame for that because it was my fault. I think we figured out what we do or what we did in the beginning. So we are going to continue to do these on a regular basis, probably 3 or 4 times a year, specific to wash, dry, fold, and pick up and delivery. And that way we can kind of silo the conversation and not get distracted by other things. But as you guys know, I do these regularly with my friend Jordan Berry, and we usually don't talk about just pick up and delivery and wash, dry, fold. So throw a couple last questions in there for you and we'll see if we can help you a little more.
Are each customer's laundry washed alone? Yes. Orders are kept completely separate. Like we said, we are big proponents of owning the order. So one processor keeps that person's order all together from the beginning till the end. Also, we use SaniWash. It's one of the ozone systems. And so also their load is sanitized. The machine is sanitized between different customers and everything. It also helps without the whole like losing items in between orders by keeping them completely separate. So
yes. This is just Dave Ben's opinion. Other people will disagree that are really smart people too. If you're going to focus on small business and residential orders and you want to build a scalable, uncompetable business to the level that we have and you're continuing to do, one of the things you want to be really careful of that slippery slope of what I call cutting corners. So it's very tempting to want to combine orders and put 6 orders into an 80-pound machine because you're going to save X, Y, and Z. And I'm not here to dispute the savings. What I'm here to tell you is it's a slippery slope, and you really want to be careful about that. It's what we've learned about the scalability, the repeatability, and the uncompetability of scaling a pickup and delivery and a wash, dry, fold service to this level is it's really all about execution. So don't get too hung up on saving a nickel on using generic detergent versus Tide. Don't get too caught up on, using this versus that. Don't get too caught up on mixing orders together. You try to save yourself a nickel, half the time you're going to cost yourself a quarter.
Here's a real quick answer for one. Somebody asked about mixing colors. We have found an amazing product. It's color catcher. What is it? Is it Shout? Okay, Shout color catchers. They're kind of pricey per sheet. They kind of look like a fabric softener sheet.
They're absolutely
But if
magic.
you we put them in every load of laundry, and you will think, oh, there's no way anything would bleed. It comes out on the sheet and catches any color that bleeds goes to the sheet and doesn't deposit on the other fabrics.
They're absolutely amazing.
So anyway, they are amazing. So that allows us to mix colors and everything comes out fabulous. So that was a quick answer.
Yep.
And then another one was, what's our threshold for pounds per hour? I say this with a caveat, but ours is 30 pounds per hour.
Minimum.
So just to, after so many weeks of training, just to keep their job, our processors have to average 30 pounds of laundry per hour. But we have a lot of efficiencies in place as far as how our things are organized that allow them to do that 30 pounds an hour. You know, in the beginning, our people couldn't have done 30 pounds an hour because we weren't that organized. We didn't have all these systems and carts and everything to make it as easy as possible on them. So there's a lot that goes into getting that 30 pounds an hour. But at 30 pounds an hour, we are profitable, making 30% profit. Anything they do over that, they get paid extra and we get more as well. So,
and I don't know if you were asking threshold for a floor or a ceiling, but that's the floor.
That's the floor.
The minimum to keep their job.
We don't have a ceiling.
if they're not averaging 30 pounds per hour within a 60-day period of time with our training and our systems we have in place, they don't have a job. And we tell them that from day one. So that's with ownership of the order, all the other things we've talked about. But if you're asking for a threshold for a ceiling, we've had processors go as high as 65 to 67 pounds an hour within the same processes, ownership of the order, fully customizable, all the things that we do now. And as she mentioned, our labor cost as a per pound of laundry actually goes down as our bonus structure goes, as their per pound bonus structure increases their hourly compensation. So I know it's probably confusing because you don't understand the business model. But there is an art to it. It's kind of a science and an art mixed together. And it took us, 6 years to develop it. So it's, we're not trying to minimize it or anything like that. Wallace asked real quick if this episode is going to be available to watch later. Yes, it will. The recording will be on YouTube. You can go watch it as many times as you'd like.
And I'll try to add some links in the show notes too, afterwards, in case some of the stuff we've mentioned, prior episodes and stuff like that, so you can find them more.
Yep.
Quickly.
One last question, and we're going to go today, guys. Terry asked real quick, silly question, not silly at all, Terry. Is 30 pounds per hour just folding and bagging? No, absolutely not. Great question. When you're having conversations in Facebook groups and things like that, or even in-person chats at conferences, make sure you're both speaking the same language. I've stood in groups on virtual, Facebook and in person where it's very clear one person's speaking Chinese and the other person's speaking English, and they'll completely lead someone astray that they didn't mean to. So this is why I wanted to grab this question, Terry. Thanks for asking it. The answer is ownership of the order from beginning to end. That means opening the bag of laundry, checking pockets, sorting, washing, drying, folding, packaging, labeling, and placing back on the shelf for return through the driver's logistical system. That entire process, that is ownership of the order. They're responsible for that 100% for each individual order. This is not just folding, because you'll get in Facebook groups and people say, what's realistic to expect? And you'll hear people say things like, oh, we have processors that process 120 pounds an hour. And what they're talking about is just folding. They're not talking about processing anything. They're not even talking about packaging or washing, drying, folding. They have an assembly line, which is fine, but you need to understand they're talking Chinese and you're speaking English, which is probably why Terry asked this question. She's probably seen those conversations lead people astray. Listen, guys, we are out of time. Thank you for your patience today. I will make sure that I don't screw up as bad next time we do one of these. But thanks for joining us today. This was maybe kind of a record attendance for the pickup and delivery component of this. And we'll try to figure out the tech a little bit more. Thank you guys for joining us today. And we'd love to, once again, last plug, we have a few spots open for that workshop. If that's something that's a good fit for you, we'd love to have but we do expect that to sell out in the next week or two.
Just go to laundromatmillionaire.com/coaching. And it's one of the first things that we have listed.
Yep. All right. We'll see you guys. We got to get the kids to bed. Take care.
Bye.
See ya.